Hey everyone, and welcome to YarnGasm. I'm Kristen, and this is episode 90. It is October 28th, 2013, and Rhinebeck 2013 has come and gone. This is take two, actually, because the previous recording I did not pick up any audio, even though I did an audio test, but I think my fancy schmancy microphone decided to just bite the dust. I did an audio test before I started recording, but turns out it's like, hey, fooled ya. Great, we will be getting a replacement microphone. So, in the meantime, I will be working with my headset. That said, let's get on with the show. Rhinebeck recap. Oh, no. I just want to cover a couple of housekeeping notes. If you follow me on Instagram, Ravelry and Twitter, you are probably aware that Blip TV gave me the boot, or my show at least. Apparently it did not meet their format standards. I have no idea why they decided to kick me off. You got me. But I found a solution. They will be available via iTunes. And also I created a YouTube channel where you can subscribe to if that's easier for you. And those will all be available to watch iTunes, YouTube, and my blog, Voolenvine.com. So everybody wins again. So yeah, that being said, crisis averted for now. So that being said, let's move on to the Rhinebeck recap. Me and Dennis actually didn't get up to Rhinebeck until 2 p.m. We got stuck in traffic, got a late start. That's how we roll. I don't know. But yeah, so we got there at 2 o'clock. I missed the podcaster meetup. I missed the Ravelry meetup. I was very disappointed, but we had a great time nevertheless. I got to meet some wonderful people. I got to say hello. Did a little fiber damage, which I will show you in a little bit. But first things first, when we got there, we were hungry, naturally. So we waited online. If you've never been to Rhinebeck, you know the food lines are so long. But I don't know what this vendor is, but they had incredible mac and cheese and lamb sausage. That's all. That was their shtick. I mean, that's all they served. And we waited online for a good half an hour to eat, and it was incredible. I can't remember the vendor's name for the life of me, but they were really good. If you remember what they were, if you had what I had, let me know, because I want the recipe and I want to know who they are, so I know where to find them next time. But yeah, after that, I had we got to look around a little bit, but I had to meet up with Lisa and a couple of other people to discuss this whole like top secret project, if you will, that I've been working on so diligently. So we met up with them. It was great seeing them. We powwowed a little bit, and lo and behold, I realized we only have an hour to shop around because Rhinebeck technically closes, I shouldn't say officially, but they close at 5 o'clock. So it was 4 o'clock. I told Lisa, I'm like, I gotta run. Lisa of Roman Hills, that is, post a link to her hand-dyed yarn in the show notes, as I do. And I will post everything I mention here in the show, I will post in the show notes. So, because I've got a lot to talk about this week, so I'm trying to get it all out. But yeah, we had an hour to shop, and honestly, I was more productive this year than any year I can remember going to Rhinebeck. And I take Rhinebeck for granted because it's so accessible for us to get up to, me and Dennis to get up to. It's literally a 2.5 hour drive from Manhattan, but Dennis's parents live in Poughkeepsie, which is only a half an hour away from Rhinebeck. So we drove up Saturday and then crashed at his parents' place Saturday night. So very easy trip for us. And so I was prepared to like not spend too much time there because we go every year. But yeah, an hour. I was like, I just want to look around. I want to see the sheep, see the livestock, and maybe do some shopping. So with only an hour to shop, I feel amazingly that I did very well, because I think when I have a time limit to do shopping, I turn on the heavy duty filter and I just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. I have the ability to do that, whereas like if I have all the time in the world, I dwell. I see something that I like, and I'm just like, I like that. Maybe I'll come back. No, here it's like either I buy it now or I'm never going to see it again. So, and that's what I did, and I felt that was very effective. So we hit up the Miss Babs booth, and I was looking at a couple of skeins, and I saw one, and I showed Dennis, and I was like, what do you think of this? And he was like, I like this. But then he saw something else, and he's like, this is a really cool colorway. So I'm like, do you want me to make you something with it? And he's like, oh, hat would be cool. And I'm like, okay, do you want me to mix it? Oh, well, let me show it to you so you know what I'm talking about, and I'm just not just talking into the wind here. So last week I had it still in the skein, but I got a little antsy, and I already cast something on for him. But this is the cake, and this is the one he chose, and it is Miss Babs Babette base, and the colorway is Dreamweaver, and it's her DK weight. So, and you get 240 yards per skein. And if you can see, it's just lovely, very faded, muted greens and denim blues and browns. Very masculine. Sorry, somebody is doing some chainsawing. I have no idea what that's about. Are they sawing wood? Who saws wood in Brooklyn? No idea. I'm sorry. It's been on and off all day. But, yeah. That's the city for you. So I actually did cast on something for him last night. A hat. And I'm keeping it super simple because, as you can see, it's a very variegated colorway. And the pattern is a drops design pattern, which, if you're aware, they're drops yarn. They have all these free patterns. And this is just a plain, simple 2x2 rib stockinette hat. And which is fine because he loves simple. He loves nothing too fancy. Excuse me. And what else was I going to say about this? Oh, and the pattern is called Ringo, which is entirely appropriate because Ringo, the drummer of the Beatles, Dennis is a drummer of a band. So it was all too appropriate. So I thought it was like a match made in heaven. So I'm like, okay, done. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. So far it's knitting up pretty quickly. I think I may be able to have it done by today or tomorrow. So that was one Rhinebeck purchase. The other Rhinebeck purchase that I made was, while we were waiting online to purchase that skein, I caught at the corner of my eye the Loop booth. And if you know Loop, they have the most gorgeous fiber. I mean, it's all, it's all fiber. It's not yarn or anything. But they have the most beautiful colorways. And I was holding out like all these bats because I just couldn't decide. I was pulling bat after bat in my hand, like they're bullseye bats, the center pull. And I know Maria of the Subway Knits podcast actually bought a bat. She talks about it on her podcast. And wow, that guy is really going to town. What is he building? Sorry. But anyway, I had all these bats, and then I caught wind of these giant bags full of just loose fiber, beautifully dyed, and one caught my eye, and I purchased this lovely bit of business right here. And this is totally my comfort zone. It's like lovely muted purples, magentas, grays, and a little bit of stellina in there. So beautiful. And again, this is their loop, and it's their spontaneous, there we go, if you get the focus, spontaneous spinning clouds, and their dream come true, I guess that you call it like their loose fiber, dream come true, and it's a blend, 4 ounces of merino, tussa silk, and angelina. So lovely stuff. And I actually tested it out because, as a newbie spinner, I asked the girl, I'm totally blanking on her name, but she was super awesome and really helpful. I asked her what the difference is between spinning from one of their bullseye bats and spinning from one of these. And she basically said that with the bats, you don't have to worry about, with the bats, you have to draft a little bit. You have to pull them apart because they're carded, they're matted down a little bit, and you want to just spread it out a little bit. Here you can just spin right from the bag and you don't have to worry so much about drafting at all. So I tested it out a little bit. I brought one of my trindles. Lovely, lovely trindles, which Trindle Man on Etsy. This is his purple heart base, and these are completely customizable. The center is polymer clay, so these pop in and out, and you can change the weight of the beads. How gorgeous are these? These are actually a very, very generous gift from, if I can get this to focus, from Kim of Craft Stash. She gave them to me, and I just don't think that she enjoyed spinning with them. I don't know why, but anyway, she's very generous, and she gave them to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. So they're great. It's great for spinning lace, and I tested out some of the loop fiber on it, and it's spinning up very lovely. And I am saving it for my wheel, so something to look forward to. But I just wanted to test it out. I brought this with me just in case, if I wanted to test out some fibers at Rhinebeck, and I did, and these are great. Anyway, so glad I brought it. What else? Oh, and because it was at the end of the day, this is almost, it's like 4:45 by now. And I told Dennis, I'm like, let's go check out some of the livestock before we leave, and maybe some of the other barns and see who's sticking around. So out of curiosity, I wanted to see if Cephalopod was still there. Because if you go to Rhinebeck or any other wool festival, I'm sure there's always a line out the door for Cephalopod. Am I even saying that right? I always get this wrong. Cephalopod. Yes, I am saying it right. Okay, go Kristen. But yeah, there's always a line out the door. When we first got there, we checked out the line, and it was super long. And I was like, you know what? No, I'll check it out online. And lo and behold, there was no line. There was no line. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna seize the moment and check out what they have left. And something stood out to me because I bought this lovely, lovely skein right here. Totally out of my comfort zone, right? Very out of my comfort zone. It's very rainbowy. I don't wear rainbows. I don't know. I'm not usually, I don't go this color crazy. But I picked it up and I showed it to Dennis. I'm like, what do you think? He's like, I like it. I'm like, I like it too. He's like, you should buy it. I'm like, I think I will. So I bought it, and here we go. I have a lovely skein of Cephalopod yarn, and this is actually my very first Cephalopod purchase, and it's their Traveler base and their DK weight, and you get 200 and the yarn. The colorway is Hobart, Indiana. You can see that. And if you notice, I bought only DK weight yarn. I can't remember the last time that happened. The last time, I don't really even knit with it. The last thing I knit that was DK was my Audrey and Unst cardigan, which didn't even fit me well. So I usually only stick to like worsted or fingering weight yarns. But yeah, I couldn't resist. This is super colorful, and I got to meet the girl who was working there. Super friendly. Everyone was super nice. I don't know. Yeah, they all just wanted to make sure that you were having a great time, and it was just great meeting people in general, just everybody. And thank you to people who came up to me and let me know how much you're enjoying the show. Elizabeth, Fiddle Knits, and I know I'm forgetting a bunch of other people. I'm so sorry, but thank you. It was so great meeting you. And Elizabeth, I'm completely blanking on your Ravelry name or your Twitter name. Please remind me. But I remember you, so yay. But anyway, that was pretty much my Rhinebeck experience, and I think I made up very well this year. So usually I only come away with like one skein of something, but I think having that cap on time really helps. I don't know. Not that I need help. I don't need any more yarn, but it definitely helped to enable me, if you will. So on to what's off the needles. Okay, we are time traveling again this week. It's in black and white because I cannot discuss colorway with you, so I'm just going to leave everything up to your imagination. But yes, amazingly, I have stuff that is off the needles. First up, I have mittens, or a mitten, I should say. There we go. Okay, my mitten design that I've slaving away over is done. It's done. So you have main color, contrasting color, which fades into contrasting color number 2. And we get a thumb. So, and a little picot cuff. And the first one, the one that I showed you last week, actually happened to be a little too small. Excuse me. It was a little snug. For some reason, I don't know, I think I have midget hands. It fit me fine, but when I went to Rhinebeck and Lisa tried it on and everyone else tried it on, it was way too small on them. And I don't blame them because I do have midget hands. I have tiny, tiny hands. So I cast it on last week after Rhinebeck. I woke up early, Dennis went for a bike ride, and I just hung out at his parents' place and worked on this like a knitting mad woman. And I'm very, very pleased with it. So I have one more to knit, and I have to chart out the pattern. It's already charted, but I just have to make a couple of revisions. But one down, one more to go. So next up, the thing that I finished is the cowl. So I can actually model for you. I'm actually wearing my Greetings from Hwang shawl this week. So I've been wearing this a lot, so one of my favorites. I digress. This is the cowl that I've been working on. It's a labor of love, guys, but if you can see, it has 2 medium cables on either side and then one ginormous, big, chunky cable in the middle. And then it's separated by these mini mock cables, which, I don't know, it just works out so well. I don't know, I love it. I love looking at it. Yeah, so it makes me happy. So, but yeah, this was not completed without some blood, sweat, and tears because I did a provisional cast on, and then when I knit everything, and when it came to, I did do the 3-needle bind off. As I was doing the 3-needle bind off, I realized my stitches weren't meeting up. So I had to rip all the bind off stitches back, and of course some of the stitches went rogue, and I had to figure everything out. I freaked out. I was literally freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to start all the way from scratch. Dennis came home. I was near tears. I was like, what am I going to do? And he's like, just calm down, take a deep breath. Why don't you just step away from it for a minute and then go in the room, pin it down on the bed, spread it out, and see what stitches you need to fix. And I was just like, that is a brilliant idea. So I took his advice, and the man is wonderful. It solved everything. I just pinned it down, stretched it out, and looked at it, and I'm like, okay, that's what needs to happen. I mean, it wasn't easy, but I've done it like an hour later. I fixed it, and I love him. Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of the 3-needle bind off because it just looks so neat. I mean, it has that seam, but at the same time, that's what it looks like on the opposite side. So, very chunky, very lovely. I know this is a sample, and I'm probably not going to see it again once I hand it off to Lisa, but I may have to knit another for myself. But anyway, I can't wait to show you the color because it's so lush and so pretty, and but yeah, very excited. But yeah, this was a very tight deadline, and I met it. So one more glove to knit, and I'm done. I just have to write out a couple patterns and send them out, and it's over. Well, not over, but I mean, just the grunt work, I think. Or the enjoyable, I shouldn't say grunt work, because it's not grunt work, it's knitting, and I love knitting. So, but yeah, like stressing to meet that deadline. There you go, that's what I meant. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on. On to the next segment. I don't have anything on the needles to show you because I know there's plenty of stuff that I still have on the needles, but I just have not put a dent in them because of said aforementioned project. So I'm going to go straight into what I've been dabbling in creatively, other than knitting and spinning. Hand dyeing, yeah. If you watched any of my previous episodes, you may recall that I dabbled in hand dyeing with food coloring, but Well, I like the way some of my yarns turned out. I wasn't crazy about the saturation. Because I was using food coloring and vinegar as the acid to make the color adhere to the fiber, it wasn't as vibrant as I was hoping. So the next step up from that is acid dyes. Knit Picks actually sells a starter kit from Greener Shades. It comes with, I believe, 9 different colors and a bag of citric acid. And I'm like, perfect. I'll just order 2 skeins of their Bear Stroll fingering weight and the kit. A little bit of an investment, but I figure, hey, little side project. I think it's worth it. So I just took I've been watching, if I always mention on the show, I watch, Laura Jinks of Jinx Yarns, the Dyer's Notebook podcast. It's actually a vidcast, and she's a hand dyer, professional hand dyer, and her show is a wealth of information as far as advice for hand dyeing, and she's so talented, and I'm always in awe of, like, her colorways, and the girl knows her stuff. So I was totally inspired to just give it a try and, have some fun, and little did I know, this was super fun. But after browsing the web and watching her a couple of back episodes, I realized I had to invest in a couple of safety gear, if you will. Number one, a mask, because you don't want to be inhaling the particles from, or the dust from the dyes, because they are in powder form. Not that they're toxic, it's just breathing powders in general is not good for your respiratory system. So while the dyes are all, they're totally non-toxic, you want to protect your person, if you will. So yeah, you want to get gloves. You want to to handle it when your yarn is hot. It's in boiling water, or when you heat set it, you want to be able to touch it. So you have to get heat resistant gloves. I felt a little awkward going into the hardware store and asking for all these things, because I did get a few weird looks, but hey, for the love of fiber, you gotta do what you gotta do. And I won't deny that wearing rubber gloves and a mask and apron and what have you made me feel a little bit like Heisenberg from Breaking Bad and Dexter, when you have to put cellophane everywhere. I was living vicariously through my favorite characters on TV. But anyway, yeah, so, but I highly recommend giving it a try if you're interested at all in hand dyeing. It's super fun, and I will show you in a second what I've been dyeing up. Granted, when I try, the first, these did not exactly turn out the way I expected them to, but I do love the finished product. This is the first skein that I dyed up. I was going for something a little brighter, but somehow a lot of grays and bright reds and almost denim blues ended up happening. I just went with it. I just went with it. I went with what looked good, and I'm like, okay, if that's not going to turn out the way I planned, I'm just going to make it work. And this is actually reskeined, so when I dyed it, I spread it out in a loop, and I dyed one block I dyed red, blue, and then another block gray, and then I just went around and around, and then I splattered a bunch of red around to give it kind of that little, it's almost like blood, if you will. It is Halloween, guys, so I was feeding into my dark side. Yeah, then once it dried, I reskeined it, which reskeining I had no idea what it was up until a few days ago. And what reskeining is once it's all dry, you wind the yarn into a cake, and then if you have a yarn swift, you either increase the diameter or decrease the diameter, and then you rewind it into a skein again, so it mixes up the colors, and you get this lovely mixed up color effect in your skein. So the more you know. Cue shooting star. So yeah, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw the pre-skeined version of this, which is also I was very pleased with. The next day I did another dye session, and again I met the bright I was going for something brighter, and I think I met that. But again, I was going for more like teal, pink, and yellow. But somehow it just ended up the pink ended up being a little bit more raspberry, if you will, more mauvey. And I just, again, I went with it, and I'm like, this is starting to look like a pumpkin, because it was in a loop, and I was like, I had a blotch of green, blue-green at the top, and then I was kind of mixing in like oranges, and that was turning into like a brownish green. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to turn this into like kind of like a Halloween-y color. And then once it was like all orange, I just kind of splattered the raspberry color all throughout, and it turned out to be like this really cool Halloween-y, festive, autumnal colorway. So again, I'm very excited about it. I love the way it turned out. So excited. In fact, I ordered some more skeins just to play around with and some more colors to experiment. But I think at the end of the day, what I really need to do is study my color theory, because that's a very important role in, obviously, hand dyeing. You want to know what colors will produce what and what have you. So that said, yeah, that's what I've been up to this weekend, aside from meeting deadlines and trying to fit in some pleasure knitting here and there. Nom. Okay. This weekend, since I had some alone time, I got to experiment or get a little experimental in the kitchen. So, usually make a turkey loaf, which we all love, or Dennis loves, but I will admit it, I am a huge carbophobe. I don't enjoy eating bread very much. I avoid it whenever possible. I don't know, I don't like the way it makes me feel. So, long story, I just avoid carbs when I can. So I wanted to try, like, instead of, because when you make a meatloaf or a turkey loaf or what have you, it calls for breadcrumbs, and I wanted to replace those breadcrumbs, and lately I've been very excited about quinoa. So I cannot get enough quinoa. I put quinoa in anything and I will inhale it, basically. So I decided, well, what if I replace the breadcrumbs with cooked quinoa? So I gave it a try. And I chopped up some shiitake mushrooms in there because I am addicted to shiitake mushrooms. I think they're amazing. They have this amazing gamey flavor to them when they're cooked. I can't describe it, but if I could, that's how I would. So I basically made a quinoa shiitake turkey loaf, and it turned out amazing. And I will post a link, and I mean, not a link, but I will post the recipe in the show notes and a photo of what it turned out to look like. But yeah, and I had also purchased a bottle of Dinosaur Barbecue, which is an amazing restaurant if you're on the East Coast. Oh my god, it's so good. I got some of their spicy barbecue sauce and just kind of mixed it in and slathered it on top. It came out amazing. So Dennis didn't even know what he missed out on. But that said, yeah, recipe on the website. That said, I hope everyone has a wonderful week ahead of them. Happy Halloween in advance, and be safe, eat lots of candy, and until next time, happy knitting. Bye.